bro.
Thank you so much.
Thank
man.
you very
Good
much
morning.
for coming through,
Thank
and
you so much.
welcome to the
Appreciate
Founders
it.
Chair. I mean,
Thank
you're one of the legends when it comes to founders. So
Thank you
I'm
so
looking
much,
forward
bro.
to this discussion.
Nah, same
huh?
here, man. A
Can I
haircut from
take
the founder.
Yes, 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 yes.
Thank you so much, bro.
I know this is your signature cap, so
Yeah.
it's like...
You know, it's the first time in my life I've done anything on camera without a cap.
Serious?
It's never ever happened to me.
Never happened?
It's never ever.
Why?
Ever.
So it's like the cap is just the...
It was for you. A legendary moment.
What? So how are we going to do it? How are we going to do it?
I mean, all the way off, eh?
All the way off.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you. Yeah, man. So tell me, one thing when we were talking the other day,
Yeah.
and I was reminded of because there's something that we have in common
Yeah.
is Christianity.
Yeah.
And I was reading Matthew 25, where it talks about the parable of the talents, and when to one he gave 5 talents, to the other he gave 3, and the other one he gave 1. That parable speaks towards what we're doing.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And just to think about how your journey has been able to start out your career since the age of 16 years old as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
How does that speak towards that journey as well?
No, man, I think that journey for me, when I sort of think about that scripture, right?
Yes.
Well, that scripture in itself really talks about being resourceful.
Yes.
And I think when I look at that journey 16 years ago when I started, and I guess with limited to no resources, that situation in itself, I won't necessarily say forced me, but you've got to fight on flight.
Yes.
In any townships across the country, whether Eldos or whether Tembisa or whatever, you've got to fight or flight. Either you accept the situation for what it is, or you actually fight for what is yours.
Yes.
Now, the beautiful thing really around the backdrop of the faith being a base, is that, when you go through the challenges and the difficulty, there's this resounding voice that you can lean on that is consistently guiding you.
Okay.
That gentle, still voice. And I think that's where the faith for me becomes the determining factor or the catalyst. Because whereas someone else will spend copious amounts of money on individuals that are therapists, not to say that they are not useful, but I then have found strength in my knees and prayer, in aligning myself to my journey, right? And I think when you sort of then look at that parable of how one was given, the one was of the 3, right?
Yes.
And I think the resourcefulness around the 3 and the one who wasn't.
Yes.
The one was too scared, and as a result of being too scared, they didn't yield any fruit. The one put a little out there, and then the other one really just put themselves wholly out there.
Yeah.
And I think for me, putting yourself wholly out there, I think is consistently being reminded of the fact that you are not the one in control.
That's true.
And because you're not the one in control, you can't lose when you put yourself out there.
Yes.
Because your journey is already scripted by someone way high. I mean, it's like that scripture that says, the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord. So I can't fail. So in the moment, it seems like a failure, but in the long, it's going to always be a win because you are guided by all the right values and principles. Now, in an era, in the era of 2024, that says, get all you can, sit on the can, and can every single thing you get. That's a scarcity mindset.
That's
and
true.
that goes taught when you sort of look at the parables, that goes against every single thing we've been taught to do.
Yes.
So when you are now self-sufficient in Christ's dependency, you can take everything that you have and put it wholly out there. And it doesn't faze you even if it's your lost physically to the eye, because you've got, an everlasting resource of opportunities, but also of resources that consistently going to be there.
That's so true. Because if you think about it, if you think about even the one that just got 1 talent, maybe that guy was also a Christian.
Yeah.
You understand? Maybe he also had the talent to become the next entrepreneur. It's the same like the journey that we talk about. He has that, but now what are you doing with what you have?
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I think it goes to the saying that says, whoever can be trusted with little can be trusted with much. And being able for your journey to be trusted with only with what you had when you started out. I mean, like, you were so resourceful in your thinking in the time when you wanted to help your mom out and you wanted to do these things. I mean, that's been so resourceful during that time, you understand? And many times we overcomplicate entrepreneurship and we think it's and we think that it's thing. But just take me back upon that time. I mean, like, what was going through your head at the age of 16, 17 years old?
I mean, I think for me, there were really no options. I think at the time, there was no amazing philosophical value proposition. The only thing I wanted to solve for at the time was I wanted to just help my mother. Because she was a single mother, raising two boys with limited to almost no resources consistently. So that for me was a simple thing. I wanted to put bread on the table. But in being able to do that, was able to then get her out of that place of poverty. But for me, it's different. I think the positioning changes over the years, right? Then it was to get my bread on the table. Then it changed to a degree to say I wanted to take care of my family, and that happened. Then I wanted to create employment, I wanted to create impact, and I wanted to create value. Which then says, one needs to consistently be driven by the why, but also not being married to the why at that moment, because you are ever developing and you're ever growing. It's almost like when I'm in a certain season and a certain space in my business and career, if I get married to that position for too long, even if I hear the gentle voice, from the Holy Spirit guiding me on my next step, I'll shun him as if he's the devil because I'm too comfortable where I am. And I think, one needs to then not be married to the things or the positions or the accolades, but one that needs to be married to being connected and rooted to the source. Because the moment you're rooted in the source, they won't be faced by the things, so you'll acquire things, but when he comes here and he says, give everything that you have given to you, you won't be shaken and you won't be moved, right? But there was a lot of fear, man, when I started then. You can imagine grade 9, I was 16, my highest grade is grade 9. Then I went to an FET college and I had to drop out. Now I'm starting this business, which is an internet cafe in the heart of Tembisa. I don't even know how to use these computers, and I'm starting with a Pentium 1 computer. And I think for me,
those were back in the day.
No, those were back in the day, man. You can imagine.
I remember internet cafe was a thing.
Internet cafes were a thing, man. But I think for me, one of the main things I'd always declare each and every day, and I guess also because of my faith, was people are coming in from the north, south, the east, and the west, right? And that's a crazy thing to say because you're in the middle of Tembisa. So how are people cycling in, swimming in, driving in, right? They're not doing any of that stuff. But because I was solely driven by the fact that my plan A is to succeed, my plan B, my plan Z, and I'm focused on making this thing work, that then was the clear reality and the goal. And I think for me, it goes back to saying that the fear will always be there. And the fear will consistently be there. And I think it doesn't get normal because when we look at people that are doing well from the outside looking in or looking at them, it looks like they've got it all figured out. But in reality, all of us are navigating each and every day, which is why that consistent relationship with your source, and in this particular case with Christ, is what then feeds you the guidance in moving into each and every day. Because if you go by the social norms or the global norms, you will get confused because today the media says this, tomorrow they peddle another narrative, and the next day they say we are not performing well, that we are not moving from a GDP perspective. But I think one needs to then have developed the type of mindset in being connected that says it doesn't matter what the economic indicators say, I'm connected to a higher power that says that I'm going to succeed by all means and by all costs. And then what that then does is it then changes what fear means to you. Then the fear is not one, the meaning of fear to you is not one that cripples you, but it's one that says, this is an indicator that something amazing or something big is about to happen, as opposed to, I'm too scared to do it.
But I think that fear factor always steps in, you understand?
Consistently.
No matter where you go to. Like we all have the faith to carry it through, but I mean, like, if that fear is not the catalyst for what you need to do, then it doesn't make sense.
No, totally it doesn't, right? Because also, if you also, it's like when the word says a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways.
That's true.
So if that fear drives you to the point where you're double-minded, it doesn't matter what it is that you do, you're not going to do it wholeheartedly because you're going to be consistently thinking about plan Bs. I mean, it's similarly to when you pray and you say to yourself, I'm praying for provision, I'm praying for a better life. But I then turn the corner, and every single person I meet, I'm talking about how bad things are, how better I need to be paid, how there's no money, you know, because words are so powerful because they profess every single thing that you actually say, you know. I mean, the township that I come from, you know, would make a statement in Vanak saying, "Uloya ngelimi," which means that literally, you know, your tongue is so powerful that everything that you profess actually comes to pass. So I think for me, you know, that level of belief is not one that it's not one that an individual simply externalizes through vocals or words, but one that where you need to believe it and you need to walk it. So it's being solid and resolute around it. But the fear for me is to say, you know, utilize the fear to propel yourself and align yourself to where you truly need to be and you need to go. Because whether you hit 1 billion, whether you need to hit 100 rand, whether you need 1,000, whatever your goal is, for you to get to 2,000, the fear is going to want to come. Because you see, the enemy's job is to consistently tell us that we are not worthy or we're not deserving. And you know, there's this very short-minded thing that we sometimes say. We look at people that have done well, and we sort of exclaim to ourselves and say, yo, they've done amazing stuff, but that's for them. That's not for us. You know, the things that are meant for us are these little or small things. The big things are not really meant for us. But every big thing was meant for you. And I think when you think about the conversation we had the other day, we talk about the importance of, you know, experiences, right? You know, going to new spaces, learning new things, going to spaces where you can't even materially afford at that moment as a disruptor, or rather as a catalyst in driving your mindset into thinking about...
Because it all comes from up here.
Yes.
It all comes from up here. And that's exactly what it is, because in order for you to change, you need to renew your mind each and every day. And once you experience these things, like we spoke about being able to walk into these places, like, you know, it's like, you know, I'm this space, I'm not used to this space. I'm not, this is not the norm for me. But guess what? You are still being able to expose yourself in the spaces. And it's not only the spaces, but also the people as well.
That's true.
Now if you're sitting in rooms where people are talking billions of rands, and now you busy with your spaza shop.
It changes. No, it changes. You know what it does? It also then stretches you, right?
Yes.
Because, you know, I mean, I'll tell you my story around experiences.
Yes.
I think what really also then drove me into potentially even considering entrepreneurship is I met a gentleman by the name of Hector Mdao. Years ago, when at my church, at a local church in Tembisa, he came at a youth service to come speak, right? But it was the first time I'd ever experienced any individual like that, right? It wasn't a charismatic preacher or pastor or whatsoever. But the one thing that he said is that, no, but what you guys need to do is simple. Go to your neighbor's house, wash their car, get that 50 rand or 30 rand at the time, get it to accumulate, get onto a taxi and go to the nearest town. Some of you guys are 16 or 18 and you've never even left your township. You've always been in the same township. And the only time you leave town is when you go to groceries with your mom. I think at the time was one of the Mercedes-Benz in Pretoria, the main ones when you drive in. And I'd go, and the one on the left, and I'd always drive in there, talk to the sales guy, you know, who was very welcoming, and he'd show me through the cars. And as a result out of that experience, I mean, I think one of my favorite cars was, and I remember this vividly, was a CLS 655 AMG multi-sport chrome rim, ostrich leather, hand-stitch, analog watch. So I knew it off by heart. And the crazy thing about that, it then became one of the goals that drove me, right? Because now I'd seen the car, I'd sat in the car, even though I didn't have a driver's license. But when I got to a point when I could afford it, you know, I never even bought the car, right? And I think then it sort of then realigns our positioning around goals and experiences. That the experience is meant to propel you, because you must remember that as human beings we're primarily driven by two things. It's either or rather inspired by two things, either the pain of a thing or the pleasure of a thing. So it's important for one to be able to then identify what is it exactly that drives you, but also not to consistently live off the pain of a thing, because if I come from poverty, I'm driven to run away as far away from it as possible. So I'm driven by the pain. But the moment I driven completely out of the pain, then I need to be driven by the pleasure. The pleasure should be the dream, the growth, the scale. What is the next level? So we've now hit a rand, we've moved from 0, we've hit a rand. So our next level of growth is 2 rand. What does that look like for us? But the big motivator behind that is to ask yourself, what will the 2 rand get you?
If you talk about the bootstrapping while you're going along, because most of the time when we spoke about this the other day is that most of the time when entrepreneurs start a business, they think about the now. They think about how can they make the money now, how can they drive the cars now, how can they achieve these things now. But once you get to a level of maturity and you understand, you know what, this goes beyond just me. You understand? I mean, like same like yourself. You were talking about the Mercedes-Benz. Now we spoke about, and basically we spoke about what is our redemptive purpose. What are we here to do? You understand? Now it goes to a greater why as to what you're doing, And it's not just because I want to drive the latest cars, I want to be able to do this. Now it's now going for longevity, because we said this the other day. We said that, you know, if you think about where we are, we might be disadvantaged because we're the first generation of entrepreneurs to start and do something. But guess what? The next generation will live a better life because somebody has taken that initiative towards this. And I think that's exactly what it is. And to your point, to what you're busy doing right now with the township, with the township entrepreneurship thing, that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. That speaks volumes.
No, definitely, man. I mean, you know what? And I think also, you know, the work that we do there is primarily driven by who we are as Africans, right? So rather South Africans. And I think who we are as South Africans in our nature, in our natural nature, without this new way of thinking that we've adopted, we are giving, you know, which is why I could always go to my neighbor's house with an open porcelain cup and they'd give me sugar. No questions asked, you know. But they wouldn't just give me the sugar. You know, they give me the sugar, one onion and a plastic with maize meal. You know, on some, no, I hope this thing carries you guys over or carries you guys through, right? And I think for me, you know, to a degree, we lose that type of mindset. And I think in this world or in this age where there's so much going on, there's so much noise. There's so many things screaming for our attention, from social media to people, to concepts and ideologies, to and the reality of it is, at the end of the day, all of us want to belong to something. And I think for me, it's important, you know, to echo a very clear message to anyone watching this, really, to say, you'll never go wrong, you know, you'll never ever go wrong with Jesus. You know, and I mean, it's not to take away from any religious belief, but once you find yourself in anything, anchor yourself completely in there, so that you don't fall susceptible to the different voices of confusion that are all around us. You know, because the moment you're able to find that resoluteness in your voice, in your stance, to do what you need to do, then it's going to be easier, because you won't then be, I think, what I call sometimes a weather entrepreneur or a circumstance entrepreneur. When things are tough, or when you see that people are making money in mining, you get forms for mining. When you hear that people are making money cutting hair, now you are there cutting hair. When you hear that people are doing well driving taxis, now you're scratching your head thinking, how do I buy taxis? No. Be so sold to your journey that it doesn't matter what people are doing, going up, market fluctuation, going up and down. Be sold to your purpose. Why? Because at the divine appointed time, things are going to work in your favor, only if you state the course.
Tell me, has there been times like where you doubted yourself and you went through failure where it's like, you know what, this is tough?
Sure, man, there's been a lot of times, I mean, there's been a lot of stuff at times I doubted myself, right? And I think when you mentioned that question, I think one of the things that jumped up was, it's like the imposter syndrome, right? There's so many times you step into places and I look at the people around me and I think to myself, I'm sitting in a room of professors, doctors, people who've written theses and all these things. And here I am as this, and I think I'd consider myself as this kid from Tembisa. Because you know, sometimes when you look at yourself, you know, sort of inwardly, as opposed to how people perceive you outwardly. So that's why, and I think for me,
that's so powerful.
And because you know, you get to places and you feel like, you know, do I belong here? Do I deserve to be here? But you know, it's that reminder, you know, I think for me, the biggest reminder has always been to say, you've worked for it, you deserve to be here, and you belong here. But I think for me, it's all perception and perspective, right? So my perspective on it is, if I work on a zero sum, then I never get to a place of arrogance. I never get to a place of entitlement, because when I'm entitled, I walk into this office right now, I go to this shop and I kick these doors, and I then have developed a who do you know who I am mindset. And that becomes counterproductive, because, you know, because at the end of the day, people do business with people that they like. So on the virtue of the fact that people do business with people that they like and they buy products from people that they like who sell these amazing products means that you need to consistently be mindful and aware. And I think awareness sometimes doesn't need us to consistently act on it. Awareness says, you know, it's important for you to be aware of your circumstances. It's important for you to know that there's a leak. You don't have the money to fix it now, but you are aware of the leak. That awareness then helps you to trade better in your water usage and other things. So similarly to, you know, business and other personal aspects in our lives, being aware means that we develop a heightened level of emotional intelligence. When we develop that level of intelligence, it shoots our sail through the roof. So then my fear is now not anchored on what people think or what people will say. It's primarily anchored by my own internal voices. And the only way to align my own internal voices is through prayer.
And if you think about it, it's like, because it's a spiritual, it's basically a spiritual journey we're talking about.
It is.
You understand? Because you and I don't know the future. We can't predict the future. We can't say, no, this is what's going to happen in the next coming weeks. But all we can do is just put our faith in God. Because no one knows what's going to do. You see, COVID was the sure reminder to all of us that anyone who had a degree, it was useless. Anyone who was a professor, that those accolades became useless. Because for the first time, no one knew what to do. But then was the sole reminder to say that, you know, in that moment, you can do one or two things. You can fight or flight. You can utilize that as a great opportunity to position yourself in a space where everyone's confused. But now when you then take that as a precursor and take it into this current life right now, it's to say there is no expert. You are the expert. And that to me is not arrogance, but that's to you channeling the energy that says, if I'm the expert, what would I do? So, because in most cases as entrepreneurs, what we say is that we look around and say, who are all the experts? What would they do? And then you try and build the next multinational X, Y, and Z. No. You're not building the next legends. You are building you. You are building the you of this moment. Because the moment you're building the you of this moment, you get to build it authentically and genuinely. And that's so powerful. That's so powerful. Because now, if you're looking at what you are called to do on this earth, because I believe everyone has a calling. Understand?
Fact.
Nobody can be Bulelani, nobody can be Sheldon. You understand? Everyone is called to do something. You can't be a copycat of an original.
No, you can't.
You can't. There's so
man, I love that. You know what I love about that, right? You know the conversation around jealousy. You know how you work around jealousy, get people knowing their purpose. Because when I know my purpose, there's no hatred. So for me, the biggest challenge that we have in this generation is that I can't applaud you, because if I applaud you, it makes it seem as if I'm endorsing you. If I'm endorsing you, it means that you're going to get ahead. But the reality is he's going to get ahead anyway. You know, so for me, if you want to work out the jealousy, you see something beautiful, don't be sitting there on some, but it's because he's whatever, it's because he's tall, it's because his name is Sheldon, it's because at the end of the day, there'll never be an ending to all of those it's because of. So you see something amazing. How do you treat jealousy out? Applaud people who are doing stuff that you think is amazing so that you silence that jealousy voice. And then take the second step, walk up to them and ask them and congratulate them and ask them how they've done it. Some will shun you and some will embrace you, but you keep it moving at the end of the day. So that's all in the spirit of building your why and building out negativity and hatred.
That's so powerful.
Sure.
Well,
man, I'm enjoying this actually.
It feels like a masterclass.
No, man.
But that's exactly what it is. Because if we look at social media, and what social media has deprived is the youth from actually loving their full potential. Because just imagine if social media wasn't around today. How different would it have been? No, definitely. Because also, you know, social media in itself exacerbates messaging. You know, so things would definitely be different. I mean, it's like I look at, you know, some of the kids in my area, the community that I grew up in, and I think to myself, when I was 14, I was playing in the streets getting dirty. Now 14-year-olds are dressing up nice and long, and there's nothing wrong with that. And, you know, if it's not driving them to all the wrong pits. But if it's going to drive them to the wrong pits, and one is living a life that wants to be accelerated, that's driven by social media, where you want things that you should be getting later now, you know, then you're going to do this thing that TD Jakes talks about, where you got what you prayed for, but you don't want what you got, you know, because you got it when you were not ready. You know, it's similarly to success. Success at the wrong time can kill you. You know, the right information at the wrong time can kill you. The right friends at the wrong time can kill you. So everything is about timing. So sometimes we've got this big fixation. Sometimes we've got this big fixation around
getting success now. But the big thing that I need to then consistently ask myself is this what I need now? Because if it's not what you need now, then it's not your time. You keep it moving. You stand on the sidelines, you applaud people, but most importantly, you serve as best as you can. So my big belief is that if you are a barber, if you are pouring people's petrol, if you're cleaning the floor, clean the floor so well so that when I walk into the shop, I must ask, Sheldon, where the heavens did you find this person who cleans the floor way better than the barber cuts hair? You know, I was in one of, because what that then does is your work, so when the Bible talks about the fact that your work will always make room for you, that's what it means. So what we've done, we've taken the limited mindset that says that our job title will make room for us. But your job title doesn't make room for you. That's why you get into the title and it yields nothing for you. But when you are able to apply your work in a powerful way, where people will see it and you do it way better than what you did, not better than someone else, but way better than what you did yesterday, every single day, you will be exceptional.
And that's exactly it. And you know, the time when I learned to start to cut hair, and my youth leader at the time, he taught me this verse, Colossians 3 verse 23. I'm sure you read it when you came into the office. And it says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as not for the Lord. No, as not for, work at it with all your heart, not for human masters, but for God, because your reward comes from God. And now if you think about that mindset, it's contrary to what the world believes. You understand, the world looks at the outward, but God is looking at what you are doing currently.
No, totally.
Because you will be rewarded according to what you do. And that's exactly it.
No, true, man. And I think for me, you know, that great reward in and itself, right? If the moment you operate in that particular way, it's when you operate from a place of purpose, that reminds you that because I'm tied to my Savior, I'm actually doing things for me. So yes, I am on a job, I do get a paid salary, but I'm doing it for me. So doing it for me means that I've taken sole ownership of my position to the point that it's a part of me, you know, because I'm doing it for me. So when I then do it on that precursor, I must do my work so well so that even if I leave one day or I'm still here and I get promoted to another position, people must nag those around me to say, but that lady, I don't know the guy or the lady, but there's someone who used to send emails a certain way. You know, and I think for me, think about it this way. You know, you think about, you know, Solomon and, you know, the Queen of Sheba. You know, one of the things that she says when she comes in there, she says, you know, I've heard people talking about the way you guys move, your system, your process. Now I'm here and I'm enamored when I look around, because from the clothing to the chairs to the carpet to the grass, you know, to the height of the grass, to the food, to how the food is placed, to the oil on the food. And that's the level of excellence that we need to bring into every single thing that we do, because why? We are only as good as anything that we put out at any given moment. So it means that if you don't approve it, don't put it out. But also, don't get paralysis from starting, because sometimes we paralyze ourselves from starting because we're overthinking the start. So we overthink the start, but you sort of look at how your business started years ago and what the logo looked like, you know, what the positioning looked like, what the first store looked like, and what it looks like now is different. But that's what journey is. So when you are sold to building it in the right way, over time, everything will align itself in the right way, because you know what the reality is. Everything good and everything great gravitate to things that are in motion. Dogs don't bark at a stationary car, they bark at cars that are in motion. So that barking as well speaks back to the fact that some of the ones that are barking are negative, some of the ones that are barking are positive. It means that you embrace them all with love and you keep it moving.
Just keep it moving. And if you look at exactly to what we were saying the other day, it's having the emotional intelligence to actually discern at that particular moment, this is not the right moment right now. And guess what happens? Next time that person comes back, don't shun them away. Don't shun them away, because it's part of God's plan. I understand, and that's how the journey works, because everything works according to God's time. Because if you look at how we operate as human beings, we want things now. We want to operate things now. And just talking about this one kid was talking about me about Forex, and he was explaining me all the benefits about Forex, and I was explaining everyone is getting on this wave and all of us. I was saying, you know, the thing is, if your intention is not in the right place, it won't succeed.
I love that.
That's so important. Because
I love that.
Everything is now.
I love that, because, and I think for me, you can sort of look at that intention for me, and I sort of assimilated in my head as money. Anytime I've done any work for any client and it was driven by money, something went wrong. Something went totally wrong. But anytime I did stuff and was driven primarily by purpose, then things sort of then aligned themselves and they went right. So I think I love what you are saying, because we're at an age that says, okay, let me get the money first, forget about what I do to get the money. So if I need to step on toes and mistreat people and fraud certain things, I'll do that. But also the reality is, you know, all these things that are shortcuts have got short legs. You know, and I think we see it all around, you know. I mean, it's like the consistent comment I make to guys and to the gents I work with. Some of them I know, some of them are close friends, some are not. Some I meet in social settings to say, you know, I've never understood the concept of how do you as a man work hard to get yourself out of poverty, to lose it because of a lack of self-control. You get the money, you get the position, now you feel like you need to be pouncing everywhere and you can't have self-control over your sexual urges. I mean, similarly to life and other things, it's important to be resolute and focused, because life is a long journey. So it's important then for us on the back of that to then make sure that we are driven by that why, that purpose, but also ethical business, ethical leadership. Because for me, that's a big one, because for me, it's you could start barbershops any way you like. But you know, you are still deliberate about doing stuff in the township. You're still deliberate about going back to your community and doing impactful stuff. You don't need to do that from an impact measure, because you could go to nicer places and do impact measures in nicer places. But the reason why you're doing that is because it's ethical. You know, it's driven by purpose and it's ethical. It's the right thing to do. But some cases, the right thing to do costs you money. But so be it, because you know where you're getting the money from. So the drive is not the money. The drive is the why, because once we get the why, the money will come.
The money will come.
You know?
And that's exactly it. That's so powerful. That's so powerful. Because I'm thinking about my journey as well, because I can remember like when we started the training center. So we started the training center, the big one in town. And when we started the training center and we done the whole costing analysis, like cost us over R1 million just to put up the center. And you know, at that particular time, there was no funds, you understand? But you know, I just felt God saying, this is the right thing to do. Because what you're creating is not for the now. It's for the next generation to come. And how many kids and lives will be impacted by this. I was telling Bulelani, at this particular training center, we train about over 60 kids every 3 months. So imagine 60 kids over every 3 months. These guys are either getting upskilled through barbering courses, they're working at Legends, and even some of them are starting their own businesses. So what does that say? You understand? At least you are trying to fulfill your purpose and playing the role that you are. And so what we're saying is that as an evangelist or as a custodian or as a Christian, you don't have to look at a pulpit to make a difference. No. You don't have to look at where you can say the loudest, but be a priest where you are.
No, true. For me, and I love that, because I remember you know, one of the, you know, consistent posters that we had at church, there was 3, but the one that stood out for me was the one that said, you can preach a better gospel with your life than with reading out scriptures, you know, because when you live your life the other way around, you're like a loud bell that makes loud noise but offers no fruit. So that for me, you know, when I sort of then think about that, you know, it talks about wherever you go, you know, leave people in a better space. You know, leave people. I think this is something that I also have come to learn from in my own personal journey, because I was so driven by the need to, you know, the need to get things and people didn't matter. And because people didn't matter, then you trample over staff, over supplies and whatsoever. But then you realize that is an infinite way of thinking. People do matter, because people are the ones who bring things together at the end of the day. You know, because at the end of the day, you must remember it this way: when God wants to bless you, He doesn't come up from the heavens and come down. He uses people. Why? Because the principles of life must always be adhered to. So the principle of life that needs to be adhered to means that, you know, be kind to all men, be respectful of all individuals, be understanding, but then don't be confused or be dissuaded about where your positioning is and what you then stand for. But the best way to preach, to convert anyone is through love. It's through love. Because all of us have got an ailment. All of us have got an Achilles of some sort. Someone else is soaking, someone else is drinking. There's something that all of us are struggling with that we want to personally deal with. It might not necessarily be a sin, but we also have our own individual challenges. So having a level of empathy that says, I'm going to show you love. I'm going to love you to change for yourself. Whatever your change you want, I'm going to love you till you get yourself to where you want to get yourself. As opposed to the judgment and chastisement, because what that then does, it blocks off the person's heart and they block it off and they don't become welcoming to that. So I think the big thing for me is show people love. Let's show them love every single place that we go to and extend it as much as we potentially can. Why? Because it costs us nothing. But the effect onto the next person is the deepest or the highest.
And that's so powerful.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. And you know, as you were speaking now, I was actually with this CEO, when was it, last week? And this guy was going around to his factory.
Yes.
And you can imagine the people that's in the factory are one of the lowest workers within his organizations, multi-billion rand organization. But the way he was treating his people. And afterwards I called him once and I asked him, why do you treat your people like that? And he says, you know what, that's the number one principle that my father taught me, is do unto others as you want them to do unto you.
Yeah.
And I was just taken back and I was thinking, it's so simple. You don't need to increase the salary. You don't need to do whatever, do all of these incentives. The simple thing that you can show love is just by treating somebody good.
Yeah, and that changes everything.
Yeah, makes a huge difference.
That makes a big
difference.
Brilliant.
It's really, but you know, this is so powerful, huh?
Nah, brilliant. I'm enjoying this.
Nah, this is so powerful. This is really powerful.
Nah, but for me, it's that, because you know, the real battle at the end of the day is in the mind.
Yes.
So the real fight of all these things, social media, people, relationships, romantic ones or not, it's just for the mind.
It's for the mind.
Because once, you know, you cripple me in my mind, I'm done.
That's exactly
everything will fall through the cracks at the end of the day. So the biggest thing is to guard the mind. That's why the Bible even says, guard your heart with all diligence. From it flows all the issues of life. That's the mind.
And you must put on your helmet of salvation each and every day, because if you don't put on your helmet of salvation, there's fiery darts, it always comes.
Exactly.
Against the mind. And
exactly.
It's like, you know, people can believe different perspectives. It all comes down to what perspective do you believe?
Yes, and stand for.
Stand for.
Right, because there's a lot of, I think this one lady, you know, at one of our workshops spoke about entry points. And I was like, what's this lady talking about entry points? She was like, you know, it's important to guard all of your entry points, because any entry point to your body is an entry point that can confuse you, then can destabilize your future, your purpose, and your mind. Like your ears, your eyes, your mouth, your nose, your feet, or whatsoever the case is. So guard it with all of your life. So in a world, in a society that says, no man, but it's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit consumption, you know, it's a little bit visual, it's a little bit whatever, it doesn't really hurt or harm anyone. No, we pay for these things in the long run. So it's important for one then to be very guarded. And sometimes when you're guarded, it means that you are socially excluded in various ways, because now they're like, oh, Sheldon is too uptight, man. He needs to live a little bit, man. Come on. I mean, he needs to live a little bit. But living a little bit should never be on the precursor of making other people feel comfortable in the nonsense that they're doing. But it should always be, if I'm showing you love and I'm showing you care, good to go, right? But I've got my own beliefs. I won't impose them on you, but we'll meet at a mutual place, and I'll engage with all people of all religious backgrounds, and we'll show love and respect and break bread. But I can't be swayed, because I'm so deep in that I'm locked in for life.
What's the practical ways of doing that on a daily basis? Because I know we spoke about you are very vigilant in terms of what your kids do in the morning, what they consume on a daily basis. You actually use that as a primary, because you like, you know, if they're not doing this, they can't be doing that. You understand? What are the practical things that you do?
No, man, I think for me, the practical stuff that I do, obviously, and I think these are rooted in how I start my day in the morning. So I start my day in the morning, you know, by first planning out the day, thinking. Then I spend the next hour and a half. I do two things. I jog and I pray. You know, that's an hour and a half each and every morning. Some instances where I would have prayed earlier, then I utilize the jog as an opportunity to learn a new skill. So what I have also on my phone, on my notes, is I've identified certain skills I'd like to learn. Some of them are oral skills, you know. What is the future of AI? What is the future of leadership? You know, how do I become a better leader? Digital marketing, because I've got different teams, so that when I'm also sitting in a meeting with them, I can also then throw in a thought. Hey, I saw 1, 2, 3. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Why? Because what I'm doing in that moment is I'm distracting myself. Then for me, then immediately after that, then the most important thing that also then centers me is the time with my sons. You know, then in that morning, it's that time with them, getting them ready for school, getting them to school, and what happens in the car, teaching them scriptures, teaching them to pray, thinking about the day, making sure that from a foundational basis, you know, the first thing that they consume when they begin their day can never be TV or phones or all this stuff. It must always be the word. So you got ready, you're walking up, you got ready, you brushed your teeth, you ate breakfast, you got in the car. The first interaction must be the word. No radio, no social media, nothing. It's the word, so that when they go into school and they're going to hear different voices from different kids, it's founded on it's built on a foundation that's of solidness and principle. Then from there, my day kicks off at 8 a.m. Then I guess at the end of the day, then it's the same thing. Then you pray, you think about the day, you consolidate, then you sleep.
How important is prayer? Because I know that for me personally, because I've experienced this in my life, because once I started changing my lifestyle according to a prayer lifestyle, I would say for me personally, I became more powerful.
Yeah.
You understand? Because prayer is that interlink, that communication with myself and God.
Yes.
And how important is that in the entrepreneurship journey?
No, man, that's important in every facet of your life, right? Because right now it's easy for me to make decisions that look good on paper. There are deals that come in every single day. There are people that come with great proposition. There are people that media is positioned and say, these are the leaders that you need to know, you need to work with, that come with great deals. But sometimes there's this gentle, still voice in you that says, don't. And it makes no sense, because you look at your company's bank accounts, you look at the fact that you owe rent, you owe your staff members, and this is a great opportunity to get money in. But something deep down in you says, don't do it. Don't do it. So for me, it's important, you know, what prayer has done for me is it's consistently put me in a place where I'm able to enhance the ability to hear that voice. So prayer for me is like strengthening the antenna and the signal that allows me to hear the voice clearer and clearer and clearer. So as a result, it's kind of like breathing. That's how important it is.
That's more,
that for me. So
exactly
to me, it's like to me, it's like breathing. It's like, you know, I have moments where I'm driving, then I'm praying, I'm sitting in meetings. In certain moments, I'm praying beneath my breath, right? Because you get this inclination that says, do this thing. So for me, it's a very important thing. But I think to someone out there, don't overthink it. It's a conversation. You know, think of it as you're talking to someone else, you know, but you might just not, you don't see them. So the best thing that you do, get in front of a mirror, talk to yourself. That's how I started when I started then practically. Then from there, I then say, you know, I talk to myself walking to the local supermarket. Yes, you know, I'm going to get this bread, man. What do you think about this bread? So you talk as if you're talking to a friend. Then you develop and harness the skill. Like with any other muscle in the body, the more and more you practice it and you learn to practice it in the right way, then perfect practice makes perfect excellently, you know. And I think then you get aligned much better. And I think that for me then, you know, prayer then becomes where you go. I mean, it's like my view and thoughts, and the Bible also says around the Holy Spirit, you know, is my counselor, is my comforter, is my intercessor, is my standby, is my strengthener, you know, is my advocate. So that's where I go for my guidance. So it's not just a reactive relationship, but it's one that is hinged on, it's an actual relationship that is mutually beneficial. So I talk and I listen. I must talk and listen because he's also talking. And if we listen close enough, we'd find that you didn't even need to pray for 7 hours because he's been talking. So sometimes what we do is that we throw things at God and we don't then sit back and listen. And sometimes when we listen, the listening is painful because the listening sometimes is taking away from the listening or what is being said. It sometimes says, step away from what you're doing. Step away from the people that you want to do certain things with. Now, because we've become comfortable, we think, get thee behind me, Satan. No, it's not, it's not Satan. You know, it's the right word, it's the right purpose, and do what you need to do.
And
so
that calm, gentle voice that always comes when you're like, you know, you're about to make a decision, and this decision can either go pear-shaped or, you understand? And especially like for me personally, I've seen it when I'm making these big decisions, like maybe hiring somebody or going into a business deal or doing these things. And you pray about it, and there's just this gentle voice that says, it's not the right thing to do. watch what you do.
Yeah.
You understand?
And it's important to follow that. So my pastor says, okay, maybe all these things that I'm saying to you guys, you don't get it, but get this one. If there is no peace in your heart about any decision that you make, that you need to make, don't make it.
Don't make it. Yeah.
If there is no peace, stillness in you, don't make it.
Don't make it. I think from me personally, I mean, like, this conversation has been so heartwarming because you know what the Bible says, iron sharpens iron, you understand? And I see you as another brother to actually share the light on my life and so many lives out there, understand? I think just in closing, if you can just share a few words with any entrepreneur that's from the township in Tembisa, El Dorado Park, whichever township it is, that's trying to do something and trying to say, you know what, I'm been trying to do this thing, but nothing is working out for me. What is those words?
I think for me, on the base of the conversation we've had today, it's really don't lean on your own understanding, because your own understanding has got limitations, right? There's an amazing source in God where you propel yourself. The moment you've started to do that, then it's important that you then also follow the laws and the principles of life. For every action there is a reaction. So you need to go out there and actually sell. So don't overthink your start, right? With the resources that you have. So I always say you start with the resources that you have, which sometimes are small. But let not your start be let not your start also then condition your mindset. So start with small resources but have a big mindset. Because when you start small and you have got a big mindset, it means that even when big things come, you are prepared for them. But sometimes the biggest challenge that we come across as small business owners is that, I start small and I've got a small mindset. When I need to charge customers what I'm actually worth, I'm scared to charge that because I don't feel like I'm worth that amount. So that's why then awareness then comes in. So be aware as a small business owner. But for me, the most important thing is, so as a young person watching this from any township, go out there and get things done, man. Go out there and work on your dreams. Go out there and sell. If there's one sure thing that is guaranteed to eradicate poverty, selling. It's important for you to be active in selling. Find something to sell, and then tell your story. Because the moment you're in motion, you will find your purpose. I believe that purpose is found when you're in motion. When you're in stagnant, your brain locks up. But when you're in movement, that's when you start to look around and see, maybe I can find myself here or myself there, and this is where my purpose potentially is. But most importantly, get things done, sell all day long, build a community around you that will support you, and get things done.
And guys, you must get this book.
Please
do get the book if you want more of this.
Thank you so much.
Please do ensure that you get the book. And such a powerful, such an impactful life. I mean, yes, impacted so many people's lives. And for people who want to know more about the Township Entrepreneur Awards that will be taking place in Tembisa.
For sure. So we've got the Township Economy Awards and Summits, right? Sheldon's one of our speakers, very excited about that, actually. But we're hosting those in November 21, 22, and 23 for the sole purpose. These are free to attend. So for the sole purpose of amplifying the voice of entrepreneurs, creating a platform of learning, but in an ethical way, in an impactful way, where you access three things: opportunity, information to learn from, opportunities and market access that you can apply in your business immediately. And then I think for me, most importantly, get an opportunity to engage with other like-minded individuals for the purpose of growing your business. So anyone interested, it's simple, man. Just Township Economy Awards.co.za, hashtag join us for tea on every social media platform.
There we go.
Thank you. Thanks for the plug.
Thank you very much. Here we go.
Man,
it is. There we go.
As is so fresh. Thank you.
No. Sure. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, bro.
This was really amazing.